to your mind when I say the word animation? Maybe you think of the Disney movies that made up your childhood. Maybe you think of an animation YouTuber like the Odd Ones Out or Hamimations. No matter what you thought of, you'll see something weird, something that makes everything different. There's different styles of animation. Style is the way that you animate something. It can be anything. I mean, look at these two drawings. Very different, right? This is because there are many different styles of animation. There are not only different styles, but different types too. I know, it sounds the same, but it's not. Style is your flair, the thing that makes your drawings yours. When I say type, I mean the method that you used to animate that certain animation. Usually when you think of animation, you think of drawing a character on a piece of paper, and then drawing the same character in a slightly different pose on the next piece of paper. This is called flipbook animation, and is one of the easiest and simplest forms of animation to use, even with no experience at all. Then just flip through the pages quickly and it'll look like one animation. Flipbook animation is a classic style of animation. It's actually one of the first types. However, it's not the very first method. To go to the very first method, we'll need to look back at the magic lantern. The magic lantern works by drawing your frames onto a glass pane, which is later referred to as an animation cell, and then sliding the panes of glass behind a lantern, which would project the image onto a surface. Slide the panes of glass through quick enough, and it'll look like one whole motion. A very popular method of animation involves spinning in some way. So in the next 3 types of animation, I will be telling you about different types that use spinning in some form of variation. That's nice. First up, the phenakistoscope. And yes, that is hard to read and pronounce. Who even came up with this name? It was invented by Joseph Plateau in December of 1832, almost 200 years ago. He created it with the help of Austrian professor Simon Stamfer, who was a practical geometry professor. The phenakistoscope works by drawing one frame on the edge of a disc and drawing the next frame on a few inches away from the first animation frame. Then, once you repeat this process around the entire disc, you spin it fast enough and it looks like one whole animation. It would look a little bit something like this. This form of animation was very popular and was surprisingly simple for the time it was made in. Another early form of animation was called the zoetrope. The zoetrope also uses a cylinder shape and drawing frames on the outer ring of it, but it's still unique. Instead of being a disc, the zoetrope was a cylindrical shape and the frames were drawn on the inside walls. Then there were windows made that would cover up the in-between frames so it wouldn't look so blurry and all you would get was the essential frames that made it look like one motion. Put it all together and it looks like this. The zoetrope was created by a mathematician named William George Horner in 1834. The next form of animation is called the thaumatrope. Why do all these spinning animation methods rhyme with trope? Anyways, this form of animation is maybe one of the simplest methods out of all the ones I've talked about so far. It works by drawing an image on one side of a circle and then another image on the other side. Then you would put 2 holes on either side of the circle and then put a string through both sides of the circle. When you twist the strings, the circle will start spinning, and if you spin it fast enough, it'll look like one full image. Put it all together and it looks like this. Alright, I'm getting kind of dizzy from talking about these spinning animation methods, and I'm getting kind of tired of saying trope at the end of everything, so let's move on. Phantasmagoria is one of the most well-known animated movies ever. This is because it is considered to be the first ever cartoon and is one of the first examples of hand-drawn animation. It was released on August 17th, 1908 and was hand-animated by a man named Emile Cole. He used the method of hand-drawn animation, which is hand-drawn, and is pretty self-explanatory. The name Phantasmagoria comes from a mid-19th century cartoon that was French for Phantasmagoria. It was a mid-19th century cartoon show that was made of dancing ghosts on the magic lantern, which we talked about earlier. Phantasmagoria was made by hand-drawing every single frame and then shooting it onto a negative film. This reversed all the colors and gave it the blackboard kind of look that you see in this. This is a clip from the actual movie. Now, let's time travel and talk about some more recent methods of animation. Late 1920s, Walt Disney created Steamboat Willie, which was his first ever hit. After that, he went on to make Snow White, which was the first ever feature-length film that was completely animated and was the highest-grossing movie of all time up until that point. Animators at Disney had been using hand-drawn animation for a long time, but Warner wanted to push the boundaries of what his animation studio could do. So for Snow White, he often used the technique called the rotoscope. The rotoscope works by tracing an animated character over a real picture to increase realism. Walt hired a woman named Marge Champion to pose as Snow White so the animators could trace her. Many people credit Pixar with having the first ever movie with CGI in it. However, this is not true. Disney used CGI in The Great Mouse Detective a whole decade before Pixar made Toy Story. However, Toy Story is the first ever feature-length film made completely out of CGI. Before we talk about Pixar and their big success, we need to talk about 2 more Disney movies. Who Framed Roger Rabbit was one of the first movies to combine real-life actors and animated characters. Then there's Beauty and the Beast, which had 2D characters drawn on 3D backgrounds. Now, let's talk about Pixar. Pixar released Toy Story in 1995 and was the first ever feature-length film made completely out of CGI. Wait, did I say that already? Pixar's success is mainly thanks due to the work of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs bought Pixar from George Lucas in 1986. He gave the studio the freedom to make whatever they wanted. While Pixar was owned by Steve Jobs, they made many hits such as Toy Story, Finding Nemo, and WALL-E. Steve Jobs did not only buy Pixar, but he also helped create animation tools that would change the course of animation forever. He helped create the Pixar Image Computer, which could produce very high-quality images. He also helped create the Computer Animation Production System, or CAPS for short. CAPS eliminated the need for hand-drawn animations or the need of animation cells, and allowed for more advanced effects to be used. He also created the RenderMan, which allowed for groundbreaking visuals and was even used in blockbusters such as The Abyss and Terminator 2. After CGI, not many new forms of animation were created. Now, people make digital versions of characters that they like, and then hand-animate them digitally. This eliminates the need to have to redraw the character every single frame, and rather, pose it and then take a snapshot, pose it, take a snapshot, put it together, and make a whole animation. CGI is also used for a lot of special effects in movies. If you're trying to make a movie, I would much rather have a designer come in and render a CGI explosion rather than setting off a real explosion, because that's a lot more dangerous. I mean, me personally, I'd rather do this than this. A lot of movies use motion capture for this. Motion capture, or mocap for short, works by putting on a special suit that tracks your movements and can be imported into a computer file. Let's say you want to make a shot of an animated character walking. It's a lot easier to put on this funky suit and walk and put that into your computer rather than hand animating every single frame of walking. CGI really revolutionized animation. It's so much easier to make movies and films because of it. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe! Then you draw the same character in a slightly different pose, and then flip through the pages quickly. Yep, okay. Drawing the next frame a few inches away, repeating this entire motion. It's not a motion, it's a process. It's a process, I tell you! What are you doing, bro? My phone's gonna die, wait. No, what's it at? 7%, oh my god. After that, he went on to release Snow White. 15% again, no! My battery's running down. Oh. Disnar. Oh my god, Disney Pixar, Disnar? Who framed Roger Rabbit? Roger Rabbit. Oh my goodness, it's Roger Rabbit.